Now, I'm delighted to join by Limerick under-20 hurling manager Diarmuid Mullins ahead of the start of their Munster Championship campaign against Clare this Wednesday in the two Gaelic grounds at 7 o'clock. Diarmuid, I suppose, championship season, it must be very exciting times in the camp.
Yeah, it's great. We've had, preparing before Christmas, we got the squad together for some weeks of S&C work. They still had some club activity to complete there. So really, since January, all the preparation has been towards tomorrow night. So we're looking forward to it. It's great to be at championship time. I suppose there's only so many weeks and months you can put in terms of preparation, and hopefully we'll find out tomorrow night whether we're prepared for what lies ahead.
And for you personally, it must be a much nicer run at it than last year when you were still involved with the minors who got to All-Ireland semi-final and you the 20s in a short space time that you've actually had time to, I suppose, sit down and analyse these players and get a good gauge of where they're at.
Yeah, last year it was hectic enough with the minors and the 20s, and it wasn't so much that having the two teams to prepare at the time. It was that there was a crossover of certain players, which I suppose didn't allow us maybe from a 20s point of view to get access to those players until we played the semi-final against Galway. So that was tricky last year, but we performed well against Clare and performed well for a considerable amount of time in the Munster final, and just was a little bit short. We were drawn going into extra time against Cork. So overall we look back at it with a little bit of regret that we didn't push on in the final, but overall it was a reasonable year, I thought.
And a new format for this year, obviously, have Clare and then you've Cork in a fortnight's time. That's two games. You just know yourself going to have to hit the ground running against Clare.
Oh yeah, Clare are a really good side. If you think back to minor level, Jack, there was very little between the two sides, and they've a lot of players who've a lot of exposure at senior level. Keane Galvin won a Fitzgibbon medal with UL and has been a regular with Brian Lohan's team even last year and this year. Obviously, Shane Mean is an outstanding forward that has really excelled with Clare in the league. Patrick Crotty has played at senior level as well. So they've an awful lot of talent. And if you throw into that, Tulla winning the Harty Cup, and then St. Flannan's would have won the Harty Cup pre-COVID. They didn't get an opportunity to play the Crow Cup semi-final, but they looked like the team that was going to go all the way that year. So, there's no shortage of talent in Clare, and, Terence is in his manager, and he was involved with Tulla as well, so he'll know all the players on the ground very, very well. So I think it'll be a very, very close game, and we'll be just hoping that we can come out the right side of it. But it's two good teams, I think, playing each other.
Yeah, you mentioned that Munster final. I suppose as a manager and coach, does it give you kind of a sense of satisfaction that there's such a turnover from players that a load that you had in that minor team have progressed onto the 20s 3 years later?
Yeah, well, of course, that's the aim, that within the academy that we bring players through, even from 14s all the way through to minor. But still, there has to be space for people who weren't part of that minor setup. So it's great to look at the likes of Donnick O'Dollig, who played last year with us and is part of our panel again this year, who wasn't part of that minor panel. Chris Thomas, who's come on, played last year, and hopefully will be playing again this year. So there's numerous guys who also have developed maybe differently over the years, and it's important that we have the best players as part of our panel. So some guys will push on a little bit from minor level. Some of them have graduated even up to the senior panel, and then there's others who maybe use the disappointment of not being part of the minor setup to come back into the system. But I think it's great to see them progress, and I'm sure it's the same in Clare. If you look at Clare, a couple of years ago, Tony Butler was playing wing back on the Clare minor hurling team that time, and now he's playing, I think, out half for Gary Owen and rugby. So things can change for different players along the way as well. Yeah,
you mentioned there some lads have made a step to senior level. Is that a boost for the squad that they've shown that it can be done, and that they're obviously quality players for you to have at your disposal?
Yeah, look, I think overall the whole aim of the academy at underage level, and then minor, and then 20s, and we've had a very good initiative this year at under 19 level, where we've had a development squad at under 19 level. John Mulqueen has been managing that group, and it's a good initiative from Paul Brown and Pat Donnelly and the whole academy, and supported by the county board, to bring through guys that might have played minor up to under 17 but may not come straight into your under 20 system, and some of them are on the squad for tomorrow night. So I think it's to try and keep lads involved at that level, so that if they have the ability to push on to senior level, that we've helped them along the way to do that. I think it's great to see, I think for other players in the panel, that we have 5 guys up training with the senior squad. It means that it's attainable, and that if they apply themselves and they're ambitious, that can happen. And I think it is really a real positive.
I suppose it could be for you. What do you feel about this rule that obviously you'll have the lads for Clare, but by the time you play Cork in your second game, if they have played for the seniors, that you'll lose them? Do you think it's a fair rule? Or?
Well, look, I suppose it was brought in the last couple of years. The idea is to reduce, I suppose, the amount of games that young players are going to play. It does make it more difficult. It's unusual that you may have a stronger panel or a stronger pool of players to select from for your first round game than you would have as the competition progresses. I wouldn't be totally against that kind of that rule, but I think there's a scheduling issue that has emerged even this year in the split season. We've a lot of lads who have been involved with county senior, whether it was Munster League or National League. Then they were also involved with Freshers competition with UL. Brilliant win for UL to win that competition, but it was a round robin championship after Christmas, which meant that they had to play 5 games to win that competition. And I think they should be encouraged to play with their colleges, and we got great cooperation from Joe McGrath and his management team in UL. But it just meant that some lads had an awful lot of activity right throughout January and February. And I wonder long term whether that's sustainable for some of those players at a really, really young age. The rule itself, I suppose it does then mean that other players are going to get an opportunity. So you have to make sure that your squad is as broad as possible in terms of that. But look, I think the overall ambition for players is to play at senior level with Limerick. So we've had good cooperation with John and his management team. So look, we'll see where it goes over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, you mentioned that UL team there that won All Ireland Freshers title, and also the Artscoil Reach boys that won the Crow Cup. Again, another boost to your team. I don't know, they were probably missing the start of training, but they'll give a real boost to the players come back with All Ireland medals in their pockets.
Yeah, I think it was a great win for Artscoil. I suppose it gives a boost to Clare as well, because there was a mix of Limerick and Clare players on that team. But what a great achievement by them to win the Crow Cup. It hasn't happened in Limerick since the 1960s, so it was fantastic. I suppose from our point of view, it just meant that the lads weren't available to us, and rightly so, because they'd put so much time and effort, not just this year, but right throughout their school time in Artscoil. So, and then you had little things that happened. The Athenry game went to a replay due to an unfortunate injury to the Athenry player, and then again the scheduling that you're right up to St. Patrick's Day for the final. So it's just meant the Artscoil lads just getting them back into the squad. They haven't been around the group or around the team as much as other lads have been since January. So it's just a balancing act there, but they're great lads, and what a great achievement, and it'll only help our squad over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, you named a 41-man panel. Could you just give us an update on? I know there's a couple of injuries in the squad. Is there any players that will be ruled out or will be, I suppose, facing?
Yeah, we have a few guys long-term injuries. Michael Keane, unfortunately had an injury before Christmas, and he's working his way back towards fitness, but he's probably a couple of weeks away. So I don't think he'll feature. He won't feature on Wednesday night, and the Cork game would come too soon. But if we could possibly get a good result in either of those games, maybe he might feature in the latter stages of the championship. Ronan Lyons has an injury at the moment, so again Wednesday might come too soon for him. John Kirby picked up an injury about 10 days, 2 weeks ago, so he's trying to work his way through that. And then Paddy O'Donovan has been working back through his injury as well. So they're kind of short term, but they may not make Wednesday's game, but we'd be hopeful that they'd be involved or be available for selection for the Cork game in a couple of weeks' time. Diarmuid Hegarty then has had a couple of injuries, and we're a little bit concerned about the injury that he actually has. So we just have to wait for a kind of an overview on Diarmuid's injury. That would be a blow to us, because Diarmuid was very good for us in the Munster final last year, having come back from a serious knee injury. So look, that's just the way it works out. We've 4 or 5 guys who would be, you'd hope, available for selection that aren't available for selection, but that offers other opportunities to other players.
Yeah, and finally, I suppose, kind of seeing some sort of semblance of normality now for these boys under 20. It's a great chance for, I suppose, family and friends to see them in action. For Limerick last year, reached the Munster final, but no crowd really. Like, it's just a huge opportunity for them.
Oh yeah, and I think it's a great championship. Last year there was great games. If you look back at the Tipperary and Waterford went extra time. Cork and Tipperary was a great semi-final. Ourselves and Clare was a great game in the Gaelic grounds, and then the final itself was a really, really good game. So there's been a track record of really good competitive games at under 20 level. And look, I think everyone kind of has an eye on the 20s and on the minors just to see what young players are coming through over the next couple of years. So hopefully there'll be good games, and hopefully we can do ourselves justice tomorrow night and in 2 weeks' time against Cork. The aim would be to see can we get a positive result on both nights, and see can we push this into end of April, start of May, into a semi-final, and try and progress. But it's going to be tough on both occasions.